I found a Doberman mother, freezing beside her dying puppies. What happened after changed everything. The snow lay so thick, the road ahead of me seemed to vanish into a blinding white sea, the sun slicing off the surface in a cold, relentless glare that exposed everything it touched, even the cruelty of indifference. I was driving along Route 212, flanked by ice-coated pines tires whispering and then protesting against the packed snow the world reduced to white and the occasional smeared streak where other cars had tried to cut through. I almost didn't see it at first, just a small dark smudge against the brightness that I told myself was a scrap of cloth or trash until the shape moved and the truth snapped into focus. I stopped. By the shoulder, a Doberman mother lay curled into herself, ribs sharp under wet fur, shaking so hard her spine formed an outline against the snow. Her body hunched protectively over 4 tiny lives pressed beneath her like fragile answers to a question no one wanted to answer. The puppies were barely 2 weeks old, scarcely stirring their chests, rising and falling in faint ragged rhythms that sounded like paper whispering in the wind. Her head lifted when my engine died, eyes clouded with fear, and something like hope, and she didn't bark or growl. She made a soft, small sound as if louder noise might snatch the little ones away from whatever thread of life they had left. She stayed. An SUV screamed past, spraying a white sheet of snow that hit her flank and sent her curling tighter, and I watched the drivers not even glance over. The look in her eyes is one I'll carry with me forever. She was waiting, just waiting. No one stopped, not one person. My heart pounded loud enough to fill the quiet as if sound alone could shame the road into compassion. A voice inside my head urged me to drive on, to stay out of it, to let the cold decide for poor things. But then I heard the tiniest whimper, a papery breath that cut through the wind, and that was all I needed to move. I opened the door, and the cold slapped my face like a blade. And when I knelt, the sun's weak warmth only turned snow to biting wet, so my knees drenched through in seconds, but I kept my hands steady even as they shook. I reached out slowly, speaking nothing because speech might break the fragile trust forming between us. And she did not snap or flee. She exhaled a hard breath and allowed me the small mercy of touching her. I gathered the puppies one by one, each so light a gust of wind could have taken them each breath, a tiny tearing sound, and wrapped them against the mother in a blanket I took from the back of my car. My hands trembled, not from the cold, but from the terror that I was too late. I watched other cars pass cold and fast, their tires carving the silence into impatient lines, and felt the weight of all the missed chances settling on me like extra layers of snow. I whispered to them, "Not today," and lifted the bundle into my arms. Not today. I placed them all on the rear seat, pulled my jacket around the mother until she tucked her body close over her pups, and closed her eyes with the exhausted relief of someone who has held on long enough to be carried. And as I started the engine, the blanket shifted and I saw 4 tiny heads stir a soft life, insisting on itself beneath the shelter of a battered, brave body. I drove toward Summit Animal Rescue Center northbound, clutching the wheel because there was nothing else to do in that moment but move them to where someone could help more. Snow kept falling behind us, quiet and vast, covering the tracks of those who had passed by without stopping. My hands tightened on the wheel. My eyes stung, and I whispered into the heated air of the car a truth I could not give voice to before people can be colder than snow. But today I wouldn't let anyone die in silence. I drove through snow so thick, the world felt like it had stopped breathing, the temperature needle sinking to 16 below. The wind shook the car in angry bursts, the engine groaning low like a tired animal. I kept one hand on the wheel, the other reaching back every few seconds toward the blanket in the back seat where I could feel the faintest breaths, thin as mist brushing through the fabric like ghosts trying to stay. "Hang in there, Luna," I whispered, my voice trembling. "Just a few more miles." When the sign for Summit Animal Rescue Center appeared through the frost, something in my chest loosened. The building was small, wooden painted white, hidden among pine trees sheathed in ice. A warm yellow light spilled from the window, the first real light I'd seen in what felt like an endless frozen day. I hit the brakes hard, threw the door open, and ran inside. A young woman with brown hair and glasses looked up, startled. "I need help," I shouted. "A mother and 4 pups, they can barely breathe." She didn't waste a second. "Put them here, hurry!" I spread the blanket across the steel table. Whatever warmth I carried vanished the instant the fabric touched metal. She leaned over, gloved hands pressing lightly against each tiny chest. "Body temps dangerously low," she said. "We need heat now." Another nurse wheeled in an infrared heater. Red light bloomed across the room, washing over the frail bodies. I stepped back, my hands gripping themselves because I didn't know what else to hold. Luna didn't move. Her eyes were open, her stomach rising and falling in shallow waves, each breath slicing through the silence like a blade. Dr. Rivera placed 2 fingers on her neck. "Weak pulse," she murmured. "But the heart's still fighting. She hasn't given up." Something inside me cracked. I'd seen people run from danger all my life, but never anyone, not even a dog, choose to stay and die beside what they loved. Dr. Rivera looked up. "Are you their owner?" I shook my head. "No, I just couldn't drive away." She nodded gently. "Then you did the right thing." Turning to the nurse, she ordered warm milk. Tiny syringes. The room filled with small sounds. The hum of the heater, the steady tick of a clock. The soft beeps of the monitors clipped to chests no larger than my palm. I stood there watching 4 fragile lives tangled in wires fine as thread, and one mother still breathing through exhaustion beneath the halo of red light. After a while, Rivera leaned closer to one pup. "This one, Hope Wright, lungs are weak. We'll need to monitor her constantly." I blinked, startled by how naturally the name came to her. "Hope?" I echoed softly. "Yes. Call her Hope." Rivera smiled faintly. "I like that." Time slowed until it barely moved. I sat in the waiting chair jacket, still wet eyes locked on the glass between us. The yellow light flickered against the wall, shifting with the rhythm of fragile breaths. Once one of the pups stopped moving, and Rivera pressed 2 fingers to its chest, rhythmic and sure, until the smallest cry escaped so faint most wouldn't hear it. But I did, and my heart started beating again in time with it. "Thank God," I whispered. By the time night settled over the pines, Rivera stepped out, pulling off her gloves. Her face was drawn, but her eyes were soft. "All 5 made it through the night," she said. "They're not safe yet, but they've got a chance." I turned to look inside. Luna was licking the heads of her pups, eyes half closed, as if the only strength she had left was the strength to love them. I asked quietly, "Can I stay?" Rivera raised an eyebrow. "You mean on that chair?" "I've sat beside people waiting to die," I said, "but tonight I want to sit beside someone learning how to live." She studied me for a moment, then nodded. "All right." I sank into the chair. Light from the window stretched across the floor in a long, golden stripe. Inside the room, warmth shimmered. Luna's gaze found mine calm and steady, and in that silent exchange I understood as long as she was still breathing, I still had a reason to believe. Morning light slipped through the frost-covered window, laying soft gold across the row of incubators. The rescue ward was so still, I could hear every measured beep of the heart monitors. Luna lay curled in the corner, her body wrapped around her 4 pups like a living blanket. Dr. Rivera came in, eyes red from the night. 3 are stable, she said quietly. The smallest one, Hope, is still struggling. Her lungs won't expand. She might not make it through the night. I could only nod, I'd heard doctors say those words 100 times back when I worked fire and rescue, but this time, silence wasn't an answer I could live with. I stepped closer. Luna lifted her head, those clouded brown eyes locking on mine. Beneath her, Hope breathed only with her belly, a tremor more than a rhythm. I reached out. She didn't pull away, didn't flinch. Just let my hand rest against her cold, damp fur. "We'll do this together," I whispered. "You fight your fight and I'll fight mine." Rivera showed me how to massage the pup's chest, how to warm her with careful pressure. Every time I moved my fingers, Luna's tongue brushed against them, soft and certain, as if she were saying, "Don't stop." Minute by minute, Hope's breathing deepened. Then it came a tiny sound, a small, broken whimper that was real and alive. I laughed out loud, disbelief flooding me. Rivera looked up, smiling. "She heard you." Amid the hum of machines, that fragile cry sounded like a miracle. 3 days passed, and none of us left the center. I mopped the floors, changed towels, and mixed milk for Luna. Rivera started calling me the second dad. I just smiled. The truth was, they were the ones teaching me how to live again. On the third night, snow began to fall once more. The building was hushed, the only light spilling from a single lamp over the porch. I sat beside Luna, hand resting lightly on the incubator. She raised her head and looked toward the window. I knew what she was remembering, the snow, the waiting, the place she almost died. "You don't have to go back there," I said softly. "You're safe now." She sighed as if she understood, then lowered her muzzle and licked Hope's head. Rivera came in, laying a hand on my shoulder. "You know, that first night I didn't think any of them would make it," she said. "But there's something in this girl. She just doesn't quit." I looked at Luna and said quietly, "Maybe she's just doing what I forgot how to do, stay." We sat in silence, the clock ticking steadily, the heater murmuring in the corner, 5 tiny breaths weaving into that rhythm. I didn't sleep that night. I leaned against the wall, eyes fixed on the small moving bundles beneath the blankets. When dawn bled through the glass, a sound split the quiet, soft, cracked, but certain. A bark, Luna. She was standing, legs trembling, eyes bright with fire. Rivera ran in, checked the monitor, and laughed through tears. "She's stable," she said. "All of them made it." I bent forward, elbows on my knees, exhaling a breath that felt years long. After so many sirens, so many cries for help, I was hearing life again, not from a human voice, but from a mother's bark. I looked at Luna and murmured, "You did it, Mama." She stepped forward, pressed her nose into my hand, and licked once, a small, warm thank you that melted straight into my chest. When I left the room, snow still blanketed the ground, but sunlight was cutting through the glass. And I knew then, we hadn't just saved 5 fragile lives. We'd saved the part of me that had forgotten how to feel alive at all. 3 weeks had passed since the morning I'd carried Luna into the center. Outside, snow still blanketed the world in silence, but inside, Summit Animal Rescue life had a different temperature. Warmth here didn't come from heaters or lamps, it came from 5 small hearts that had crossed the thin line between death and survival. Each morning, I arrived early, sweeping the floors, changing towels, and checking every bowl of milk. Dr. Rivera called it a routine, but to me, it felt like a ritual, a way to relearn how to care one small act at a time. Luna was stronger now. She stood wobbly but proud, pacing slow circles around the kennel. Her legs still trembled, but her eyes had changed clear, alert, and full of quiet strength. When I entered, she watched me, ears twitching, tail giving a faint, careful wag. It wasn't fear anymore. It was recognition. Rivera grinned. "She trusts you now." I shook my head. "No. She's teaching me how to trust again." The pups grew faster than I thought possible. Rusty was always first to crawl out from under the blanket. Belle barked in a raspy, broken voice like she had something urgent to say. Tiny slept more than anyone. and Hope, the smallest, the one who had almost slipped away, stayed closest to her mother, breathing stronger with each new sunrise. Sometimes I sat there just watching them, feeling a peace I hadn't known in years. For the first time in forever, the rhythm I heard wasn't sirens or screams, just tails thumping softly against the floor, and the gentle lick of a mother cleaning her pups. One afternoon, Rivera asked, "Did you ever wonder why you stopped that day?" I thought for a long moment before answering, because if I hadn't, I don't think I'd still be human. She smiled faintly. Maybe they're the ones who saved you, not the other way around. That thought stayed with me the rest of the day. Saving Luna wasn't just an act, it was a confession, a way to make peace with the part of me that once failed to save someone I loved. Later, sunlight streamed through the window, stretching long and warm across the concrete floor. Luna stood by the door, gazing at the snow. I opened the kennel gate and she stepped out slowly, her paws meeting the cold cement. Light caught her coat, turning it into a shimmer of reddish bronze like glowing embers. "She needs to feel the sun," Rivera said softly. I nodded. We all do. We took all 5 outside to the back lot. Snow was melting in patches, water glistening across the ground. The pups stumbled, slid, and fell. Luna nudged each one gently back to their feet. Then suddenly, a bark rang out short, shaky but bright as a spark in the cold air. Rivera laughed. That's Hope. I couldn't help laughing too. Tiny things got spirit. The sunlight spilled through the melting snow so brilliant it hurt my eyes. I looked at Luna and her pups tumbling through the light and realized the brightness didn't just come from the sun. It was coming from within. That evening, after everyone had gone home, I stayed. Luna and her 4 pups slept curled together in their nest, their breathing steady, soft. I looked down at my own hands, the old scars still there, but the tremor gone. And I whispered to myself, maybe saving others doesn't always mean saving them. Sometimes just staying, that's how you save yourself. Outside, snow began to fall again. But this time it wasn't cold. Light from the room glinted against the flakes, making them sparkle like small floating embers, the fire of life, the fire of faith, the fire that had finally returned to my heart. March came, and the snow melted faster than it had in years. The road leading to Summit Rescue Center was now drenched in sunlight, and in the yard, 5 small miracles ran wild like beams of moving light. Rusty led the charge tail, thrashing like a banner in the wind. Belle and Tiny stumbled after him, while Hope, the one who once couldn't breathe without help, was now taking her first real steps. I sat on the wooden bench by the porch, coffee steaming between my hands, a feeling blooming in my chest I didn't have a name for. Maybe gratitude. Luna rested beside me, sunlight rippling across her sleek black coat. She had fully recovered, eyes sharp, stride confident, no longer the fragile creature dying in the snow. Whenever one of her pups tumbled, she bent to nudge it upright, licked its head, then looked at me with an expression that said everything. See, we're alive. Dr. Rivera came out holding a clipboard. "Ethan," she said, "Hope's lung tests came back better than we expected. No more inflammation." I looked at the smallest pup chasing her siblings and smiled. She already decided to live. Rivera's eyes softened, and so did you. Her words silenced me. I didn't deny it. Somewhere along these months, something inside me had thawed. The man who once lived frozen in memory had started to remember how to smile, how to listen, how to believe that loss can give birth to something kind. That afternoon, Rivera said, "They're strong enough to go outside now. Want to help me take them into town?" For the first time, I nodded instantly. We loaded the 5 pups into the small truck. Luna lay in the middle seat, her head resting on the cushion, eyes fixed on the window. The road curved through pine wood sunlight, spilling between branches, scattering gold across the dashboard. We didn't talk, but the silence was warm. When we reached Pine Hollow Park, Rivera opened the door and Luna stepped out first. Spring wind brushed past rustling dry leaves. The pups tumbled onto the grass, falling, standing, falling again, as if learning how to walk through a world they'd never known. People slowed, watching. A little girl knelt down, hand outstretched. Hope trotted forward, sniffed, then licked the girl's palm. Laughter rang out pure and high, the sound of spring itself beginning. Rivera's voice broke softly. "You see, Ethan, sometimes the best thing we can do is stop and offer one small chance." I nodded. "And sometimes one small chance is enough to change an entire life." We sat on the park bench watching Luna and her pups chase the light. Their shadows stretched long across the grass, one large, four small, blending together into a picture of survival. I remembered that first night, the snow, the cold, the shallow breathing. And now, barks, laughter, wind, and the steady rhythm of hearts still beating. It was proof that miracles don't appear when we beg for them. They happen when we choose not to give up. By sunset, as the sun brushed the ridge of the mountains, we headed back. I opened the truck door. Luna leapt in, turned to me, her eyes so gentle they ached to look at. I rested my hand on her head and whispered, "From now on, you and your babies aren't just saved, you're the miracle for everyone who comes after." Rivera nodded, voice barely above the wind. "I think this place just gained 2 new souls, you and Luna." That night, for the first time in years, I opened my old journal. On the desk lay a photo of Luna and her pups. Beneath it, I wrote, "Day 67. The coldest room now breathes warmth." Maybe miracles have no shape. Maybe they just carry heat. Outside, the last of the snow was gone. Moonlight shimmered on the lake like a living breath. Luna and her pups slept curled beneath the golden glow of a lamp, and for the first time in so long I felt I was exactly where I was meant to be. The first summer rain hit Montana like a cold blade from the sky. I was cleaning the kennels when Rivera's voice shattered the quiet. "Ethan, hurry, Hope can't breathe." My heart slammed against my ribs. I ran. Hope lay collapsed in her nest chest, rising in shallow spasms, white foam slipping from her mouth. Luna was circling her, growling low, her eyes wide with terror, trying to shield her pup with her trembling body. Rivera was already there, fitting the oxygen tube, her hands shaking from fear more than cold. "It could be her lungs again," she said, voice sharp and fast, "or an allergic reaction. She's too weak to fight another round." The words cut through me like glass. Luna bent down, licking her pup's face, trying to breathe life into her the only way she knew how. "Get the mother out," Rivera barked. "No," I said, shaking my head. "If we separate them, she'll panic. Let her stay." Rivera nodded once and started compressions again. I knelt beside them, one arm holding Luna back, the other trembling against Hope's tiny body. "Come on, kid," I whispered. "You made it through the snow. Don't you quit on me now." No response. 1, 2, 3 more pushes. Then the flat, piercing tone of the monitor, long, steady, merciless. Luna threw her head back and howled. The sound tore through the building, raw and primal. I felt it shake the walls, shake me. My eyes flooded before I even realized I was crying. I'd told myself I was ready for this possibility, but no one is ever ready to lose a life they once pulled back from the edge. Rivera stopped, her hand still on the pup. "Ethan, I'm so sorry." The room went silent. I bowed my head, chest heavy with the weight of helplessness. Luna pressed her face into her pup's body, whimpering soft, broken sounds that barely existed yet tore the heart clean open. I couldn't stay inside. I stumbled out into the rain. It came down hard, hammering the tin roof, soaking me to the bone. I leaned against the wall, face tilted to the sky, letting the rain mix with my tears. "No. Not like this," I whispered. "Not this ending." Then a bark, faint, raspy, caught between breaths, but real. I turned, stunned. Rivera's eyes were wide. Hope twitched her chest, lifting weakly once, then again. "She's back," Rivera gasped. "Ethan, she's breathing." I ran to them. Luna was licking her fur, frantically trembling as if she could pour her heartbeat into her child's. Hope's eyes flickered open, clouded fragile, but lit from somewhere deep inside. What I felt then wasn't science. It wasn't luck. It was something older, wilder love in its rawest form, dragging life back from wherever it had gone. Rivera stepped back, whispering as if afraid to disturb the miracle. Maybe it was her mother who pulled her back. I rested my hand on Luna's back, my voice breaking. No. It was both of them. They never let go of each other. We stayed like that, all three of us, watching Hope's breath find its rhythm again. It wasn't a rescue anymore. It was a ceremony of survival, a mother giving her breath away, a man remembering what faith feels like, a doctor crying through a smile. When the rain finally eased, Rivera said softly, "You see, Ethan, even when we think everything's lost, sometimes love still calls us back." I nodded, whispering, "The second miracle just happened right here, where we refused to give up." That night, I sat on the porch, the air thick with the scent of wet pine and smoke. Inside, I could hear Hope's steady breathing, Luna's soft rustle beside her. On the table, the photo of Margaret caught the lamplight. I looked toward the misted sky and spoke quietly. "You see it, Margie. Some miracles come late, but just in time to remind us life's still worth living." A flash of lightning lit up the forest, silvering every pine. In that brief glow, I saw Luna curled protectively around her pups, a vision so beautiful it hurt to breathe. And I knew this rain hadn't come to take anything away. It came to wash the past clean, so that when dawn arrived, all of us, the man, the dog, and what was left of Faith, could begin again. A year had passed since that night of rain. Montana was deep in late spring now, with snow lingering only on the far peaks. When I pushed open the wooden doors of Summit Animal Rescue Center, the air rushed in, carrying the scent of pine and the sound of barking that filled the yard like music. The place was nothing like the one I'd walked into a year ago. The walls had been repainted, the back lot expanded into a full play yard, and beside the main sign stood a small wooden plaque engraved with the words, "In honor of Luna and her pups, for those who chose to stay." I ran my fingers over the carving. Each word stung a little, the good kind of ache, like when your heart remembers something worth keeping. Luna lay on the porch steps, her black coat glinting under the sun ears, sharp, posture regal. 3 of her 4 pups had long since found homes. Rusty, with a family of 3 in Bozeman, Belle, and Tiny, with a retired couple in Missoula. Only Hope remained still here, true to her name, the living emblem of everything that had happened. Dr. Rivera came out of the exam room, clipboard in hand, smiling. "You realize today makes exactly 1 year since you carried Luna in." I laughed softly. I remember. The smell of mud, the sting of snow, and that fear not knowing if what I was holding was still breathing. Rivera nodded, eyes glimmering with the kind of tenderness only people who've seen life and death up close ever understand. "But you stopped Ethan," she said. "And that changed everything." Hope bounded across the yard tail, wagging furiously, then pressed her paw against my knee. I stroked her head, feeling the warmth beneath my hand, the pulse of a soul that had once returned from the edge. That afternoon, we opened the center's gates for visitors. A group of school children arrived with boxes of food and toys they'd collected. I sat on the porch and told them Luna's story, not dramatically, just honestly. When I reached the part where she refused to leave her pup in the storm, the group fell silent. A small girl asked softly, "Did she understand what you said to her?" I smiled. She didn't need words. She just needed to see that someone's eyes and hands weren't walking away. The children nodded quietly. Then a boy whispered, "I think sometimes love just needs to stay. I smiled. Exactly. Stay and never give up. When evening came and the visitors left, Rivera and I walked along the fence line. The wind was gentle, brushing the grass. Luna and Hope ran side by side ahead of us. Rivera said, "Do you think you'll stay here forever?" "Ethan," I laughed, "I don't think about forever. But I know this, as long as there's someone abandoned out there, I'll always stop." She turned to me, her expression soft. "Maybe that's what we all need, a place like this to remind us kindness still exists." I said nothing. Ahead of us, the sun sank low, washing the snow-capped ridge in red light. Luna sat down, head tilted slightly, staring toward the horizon where the last glow of day spilled over the road leading into town. Hope curled against her paws, amber eyes reflecting the blazing sky. I lifted my camera and took that photo. Later, I printed it and placed it in a wooden frame on the reception desk. Beneath it, I carved a single line. "Sometimes the ones we save are the ones who save us back." That night, after the lights were out, I stayed a while longer. Luna and Hope slept at my feet, their breathing steady, soft, like the lullaby of a Montana night. I opened my journal and wrote the final entry. "No creature is too small to be loved, and no heart is too cold to be warm again." I closed the book and looked up at the framed photograph. Margaret once told me, "If you can save a life, never turn away." Now, I finally understood saving isn't just what we do, it's how we choose to see the world. Outside, the wind whispered through the pines, carrying the scent of wet earth and new grass. From the back lot came a soft bark, mingling with Rivera's laughter. And in that moment, I realized every pain, every loss, every wrong turn had led me here. To a place where kindness needed no words, only a heart willing to stop. If this story reached you, please help us share it. Share it so that someone out there, someone losing faith, someone feeling forgotten may know this. Sometimes all it takes is one person stopping, and a life can be saved. And sometimes that life ends up saving us too. Leave A or A if you still believe kindness exists. And hit subscribe, not just to hear more rescue stories, but to help us build a world where every breath is heard, every soul is seen, and love still chooses to stay.